Good day. Sports is one activity of man that shows us how very timely and transient success can be. If you are follower of boxing, you will recall how at one time Muhammad Ali and even Mike Tyson were at the top of their game. But sad to say, we saw Muhammad Ali being demolished by Larry Holmes. And we saw a shadow of himself, Mike Tyson, when he was in the later stages of his career. We see this a lot in soccer also, when great soccer players like Pele, Maradona, and even Thierry Henry will resign, will get past their most powerful and potent age. The same thing too happens in the affairs of man as regards to geopolitics, and we see kingdoms come and go, kingdoms go. We saw how extensive the British Empire was and how the British Empire has so much influenced the world, much more than any other empire. But that was an empire that went at one time. It has gone. We have also seen, I am a lover of the Ottoman Empire. I love Turkey, and I always go to Turkey to go and see and talk about the great sultans of Turkey. That too was a very great empire, the Ottoman Empire, but the sun set on the Ottoman Empire one day. And one of the ironies of the Ottoman Empire is that the sun set on the Ottoman Empire and gave us realities that we find in the Middle East today. Saudi Arabia, Israel, Palestine, all the countries of the Middle East, practically, that we see today came out of that Ottoman Empire just a few years back. And at this time, we are seeing what I dare say is the flailing and dying throes of another empire. There is an American economist called Richard Wolff. He runs a podcast here, and he's very, very popular. I think his podcast is Democracy Works. He's very well read, very well published also. But he has been very stringent in most of his videos. He always says that the American empire is waning and the American empire is about to fall. The Israeli-Iranian 12-day war may just have given credence to just this is long assertions. He has been very strident that the American empire is falling and that the actions we see America take in recent years may just be a reflection of that fact that America is in decline. And for me, I think nothing has made bare this reality than this recent 12-day war between Israel and Iran. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ibimo Amungo's perspective on global affairs. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any ideas or opinions about what I express here, please put them in the comment section. But whatever it is, please like and share. The Israel-Iran war has ended. At least it's on pause. There's a ceasefire. But we took a lot out of it. For those of us who are quite insightful, and for me who likes to analyze a little bit and look at the broader scope of things, what I saw was one country, Iran, possibly helped through the back channels by allies like Russia and China. But for all we know, one country was facing off against almost 10 countries. I can list them: Azerbaijan, Turkey, England, that is United Kingdom, France, Germany. These were all the countries that helped to shoot down Iranian drones and Iranian missiles as they were lobbing them into Israel. They all were active, if not in shooting at Iran, at least in mitigating and interdicting against harm coming to Israel from Iran. So this was Iran, and what did Iran show? Iran showed that warfare had really changed from what we know, used to think, and what we used to know. So this is the reality. How do I now tie this up to a winning American empire? Let me explain. The war just showed that while Iran may not have had a very effective air force, one in which they had cutting-edge war machines like F-35 and Tomahawk missiles and all these other things that we know now that America has and America uses in projecting power. They had ballistic and cruise missiles and drones. Ballistic, cruise missiles, and drones is what they used to practically ruin the Israeli economy, destroyed so many things, and violate the Israeli airspace with impunity. Despite all the efforts of all those countries I've just listed, they could not help Israel. Israel was battered and battered and battered relentlessly. You see, Iran does not have an air force. They've been under sanctions for over 40 years, and even their commercial planes, like their Boeing planes, are still the ones they had from before the regime of sanctions was placed on them. So this reality that they fought a war just with missiles is very impressive. It shows us where the world has gone now. They fought this war and they showed that hypersonic missiles and drones are a very effective reality if you are defending or even as an offensive tools. Drones and missiles have also defined the Russia-Ukraine war. This is a war also where we have the Americans behind NATO and all the European countries, the collective West. In fact, whenever they do the Ukraine contact group meetings in NATO, there are always at least 32 to 50 countries supporting Ukraine. But Russia has shown that through its um, advanced missile systems like the Iskander missiles and its drones like the Garand 3 and its FBP drones and Lancet drones, it has shown that drones have become the real reality of the modern day warfare. And then the missiles also. But this is where I want to make a comparison now. There's one country who, after suffering 100 years of humiliation, which is China, have decided that even though they are not going to take on an offensive posture, they were going to make sure that nobody ever invades them again. And so for that reason, they have invested in drones, hypersonic missiles, and cruise missiles very, very extensively. So this is where the world really is now. You can mitigate actions of aircraft carriers, strike groups, through these missiles that we're talking about now. We saw the missiles that was used by Iran, and they were very effective. They can also, I guess, take out in a standoff war between possibly China and America. They can take out aircraft carriers. They can take out facilities all across. And China has been extensively investing in drones. That is the military part of it. But if America cut her losses quickly and said we are not going to be part of this war, it may have a lot to do with the economic reality and the financial implication of this war. Why do I say that? Wars are costly. So costly that in history, many empires have been known to fall because of their misadventures in several wars. I can call from the French Empire, and even the British Empire finally was destroyed by 2 world wars. Wars cost a lot of money. And when you are an America that is suffering a decline in your financial reserve, you have 33 trillion in debt, you pay almost $1 trillion in interest rates every year. And you have a situation where your biggest asset, the one golden goods that used to make you so attractive to the world, your bond market and your treasury market, is being undermined by the fact that nobody is coming to invest in you anymore. Countries that used to bring their surplus earnings to you and put in bonds so that you could go on campaign. There was once a time America could have two wars going. They could project American power in almost three theaters of war. They were projecting it in the Afghanistan and the Iraqi theater of wars. That was the kind of strength America has. America has had limitless wars they fought between 1940 and now. But it's not anymore. We just found out that that ability to finance wars has been compromised seriously, and it was in taking caution, erring on the side of caution, that made Trump to limit that war to just one strike on Iran and support for Israel. Beyond that, he was not ready to expand that war into one where he will go into a shooting match, a long drawn-out war between Iran and Israel, and Israel and Iran and America. He just didn't want it. America can't afford it anymore, especially since America knows they have other priorities now. And what is that priority? A growing China, a China that is asserting itself. One of the things America has not coped very well with is that in the age of hegemony, it just didn't like any country that tried to assert itself. Cuba has suffered 50 years of American sanctions because it tried to assert itself. All the countries of South America and Latin America within the Americas here have all been battered and destroyed and forced into having the American way. They have a tool called the CIA that helps them to achieve that outcome. The same too for African countries. So trying to be a sovereign country and trying to shake off the influence of the American government and state is one of the most deadly things any country can dare to do. Libya found out the hard way. And this is the time when one or two countries are beginning to say, no, we are sovereign, we will assert ourselves, and we will look after our national interest. And that is the sin of Iran, and that is the reason why Iran has been at the crosshairs of policymakers in Washington for this long a time. But that will, that strength, that ability in which they had used to assert themselves, promote regime change all across the world, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, even in Eurasia, that is no more. That will that made them have the power to extend themselves into Georgia and Ukraine has been crushed by the Russians, who says, no, we will have our way. And the Chinese now represent a true and clear force of complete and total sovereignty, one which cannot be influenced by America, because they've grown to match America and even surpass America technologically in so many spheres. And they've done one of the greatest things that empower people. They've built an economic structure that is way beyond the reach of America. They have trade ties now with 128 countries. That is a great achievement by every means. So even though some products of China are not sold in the American market, very well and good, they're sold in all the other parts of the world. America's ability to stop China from selling is sleeping every day. It can't. It comes out with regimes of sanctions and threats of sanctions, but still people buy Chinese EVs, they buy Chinese solar panels, they buy Huawei base stations for their telecoms, and just Chinese products all over the world are selling. That is just how China has become free. And even when they say, look, we still have technology that you may need and we don't want you to use, China builds its own. China was excluded out of the International Space Station program. They built their own International Space Station, and they now have theirs, and theirs is the one more modern and more technologically advanced. And give it a few more years, the ISS will not be in existence. It will only be Tiangong that will be high up there in low Earth orbit. That is where China is now. So China has matched America in the market and matched America in technology, gained sovereignty that has challenged America's hegemony. In fact, the success of Russia and the growth of China have shown that we now have a multipolar world. So America is losing all its strength and power, becoming a fit, like a former bodybuilder who is slowly losing his muscles. I won't go as far as saying someone like Ron Coleman, who was ravaged by a stroke and all his muscles became a fit. No, they're not there yet, but they are actually atrophying as an economy and as a global hegemon. Another place I will say that America's hand was shown that they just couldn't afford it is that the Middle East has become more influential in controlling America than America being able to control the Middle East. And I attribute this repeatedly to the success of the Emirate of Dubai. Why do I say this? You see, the success, when they say when you don't have, you're reckless. When you have, you want to keep it. The Middle East now has wealth, development, and a vision for themselves. The Biden administration and many American administrations before him were not too friendly to the Middle East. But somehow the Middle East monarchs and sheikhs found a way to make cities and countries like the United Arab Emirates to become successful in as logistics centers, as tourism centers, as financial centers. They now have a stake. The success of the United Arab Emirates has become a beacon of that has sparked the need for development in countries like Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was late in catching up. If you live in Saudi Arabia, if you know the Saudi reality, you will know that one person, MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, is a spark that said we can't be here with all our resources. And countries like United Arab Emirates, smaller than us by 4 times, are moving and getting close to our own GDP. So he is the one modernizing that country. And for that reason, they have become stakeholders in the Middle Eastern project in a different way. They are not calling for conflict anymore. They are calling for avoidance of conflict. And they pressed upon Trump in this last war that don't bring conflict to us. We can't. We can't afford it. And they pushed Trump's hand by quickly signing a peace deal and siding with the Iranians, which is unprecedented. These are all policies against what was always the interest of America to divide and rule, keep Iran and Saudi Arabia fighting each other. But now they feel that they want peace for their region. After all, Qatar just hosted the World Cup. Saudi Arabia has found a way to want to host the World Cup. Cities like Riyadh, Jeddah, cities like Aba, cities like Bisha. If you live in Saudi Arabia, you will see these things. Saudi Arabia is now bringing more attention to themselves. Formula One, UFC, PFL, golf, live golf. That is the reality they are in now. They don't want it blown up by some war that makes no sense to them and has no interest for them. So they are now an influence block on America, which is they pushed back. They really did. They pushed back. But we should not forget one thing. Even though I have said that nobody is buying American treasuries anymore and America's ability to raise money very significantly, and that money could help them run a deficit account for several years. For several years, America was a deficit country, and America used that position as a deficit country to finance wars. It benefited a lot of people, a lot of countries, but somehow, when those wars came, America could always get money, but that has changed. But we should not forget that still America has strength in the sense that America has this large stock of piles of money still owned by China, 700 or 800 billion dollars, Japan, $1 trillion, Saudi Arabia, almost 500 or 600 million dollars, packed in their banking system as bonds and treasury bills. They still use that money to keep other countries in line and still threaten them. But now it's the threat of losing that money, just as Russia had lost its own when it dared the will of NATO and and the American hegemons that neocons that Ukraine should join NATO, and NATO said no, and Russia said no. That's not in our national interest. It is an existential threat. So in invading Ukraine, Russia's sovereign wealth and assets were seized. So this is where the world is now. We are at this point where America has to do what in Nigeria we call gra-gra. We call it gra-gra, so that they can hang on to your money, they can hang on to your bonds, and if you don't want to lose your money that you took several years to accumulate in foreign bank in New York, then you have to still toe the American way. And that's why that threat of sanction, threat of tariff, or any threat America makes is still a weighty threat to most of the world. But there's now a byway. Trade and commerce is with the Chinese. Trade and commerce is with the Koreans. Trade and commerce is with the Turks, the United Arab Emirates. The role of America in foreign direct investments into several countries is slowly going down. From having 75% of global manufacturing in 1955, America now has only 11% of manufacturing contributing to its GDP. Just 11% that manufacturing contributes to its GDP. This is just where it is now. Financial services is the biggest strength of America, and that financial sector is being threatened by China that is creating back channels and new trade routes through payment systems that is undermining, chipping away at the strength of the dollar. The reward, the dollarization, is actually a real and present trend. And one of the great things that America has always had is an ability to form coalition. The coalition that they had, even if they didn't need it, when they needed it, they got the United Nations as behind them. But most recently, in recent wars, especially the war in Iraq, and even this action in Iran, usually are unilateral actions of the United States and a few willing partners. Always the English, the British, very willing to follow up with the Americans. But here it is now. The challengers to America's hegemony have become very savvy in forming new coalitions. We have coalitions like the BRICS, and then coalitions like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, coalitions like even the ASEAN, which though has people who oppose to China's aggressive entry into the South China Sea and the East China Sea, still know that it is in their interest to do business with China. The way I even see it, China is just winning over that region by just being a veritable market and a supplier and trader and their biggest trading partner. So they can sell their goods in China and they can still get goods that they use in intermediate goods that they use for their own manufacturing from China. So it's a win-win, as the Chinese always say, win-win situation. So just as I've always said, this is showing that America is not in a good place. And this Iran war just showed that it showed the limit to America's strength. America could just not do it as they wish they would have wanted to do it. If it was in those days of limitless resources, that infantry by America, Iran would have been met with troop mobilization, with coalition forming within the Middle East, so that bases, already they have all these bases, and they would be deploying now to go and overthrow the Ayatollah. That isn't happening anymore. I don't even see America going into a war, despite all the posturing of Donald Trump for a while. They just can't afford it. Wars are costly, and wars have destroyed so many empires. And this Iran war was a bullet that America dodged. If they go into another war again in the next 5 years, it may just precipitate the decline and final demise of the American state. This is just what happened to England. England went into a brutal war with all the European partners there, and they all lost. And who won from that war? It was the United States of America. They came out the only global hegemon, although they were challenged by the Soviet Union, but it just did not last. So the Iran war has shown us that it has shown the limits to American power. Some people who have always said the American state is in decline have latched in on it and said, yes, this is a clear sign of it. But America has people who believe in American strength and power. After all, power, America projects power, maritime power, air power. But what I say is that if you're bringing war to me and I am defending and I have access to missiles and I have access to hypersonic missiles, you may just get a nasty, dirty blow that you may not recover from. Just as Napoleon went trying to destroy the Russian Empire with 600,000 men and came back to France with just 40,000 men, that may just be the fate of America if they dare go into any war with a peer-to-peer competitor. Not a war with Panama, not a war with Guinea, not a war with Chad. That one is an overwhelming victory for them. But a war possibly with China or Russia, there's not much I should even say. This is where I end my video today. If you have any opinion about what I've just discussed, you can leave it in the comment section. If you have your own view, also leave it in the comment section. If you're new to this channel and you like the channel, please subscribe. And if you can't do any of those ones, just do one thing. Press the like button. Thank you very much. I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.